I think traveling. I'm not.
Driving.
Yeah, they may be driving because I know he has family in driving distance. You know, he always keeps up with his family. All right, any prayer requests anyone has? Yes, sir.
Mother's back in the hospital.
Your mom, okay. Brother Ed's mom, okay.
Last month she got to go in there, she did that blood transfusion, all that, and so on the month, she didn't go last month.
I'm sorry to hear that. Okay, well let's keep her in prayer. I know that can be hard.
Pray for the people out there at the fire.
All right, yeah, that's good. Brother Joey, two people from the fire. Joey was mentioning he was close by where he was staying at, and thinks the Animal Welfare League may have also caught fire. So we got to pray for safety, but then also for the animals that are in there, and then the people that are going in there. Like, I've always thought about being a fireman. Like, I thought it'd be pretty cool to be one. But man, on a day to where it's hot like this, and then you're fighting a fire, those guys need a lot of prayers. So, all right. Father, in Jesus' name, thank you today, Lord, for the opportunity you give for us, God, to come in and to do this study. God, we pray that you would allow us to grow in what we're learning, God, that you would allow us, God, to get information that can help us for our lives, God, to where we can ultimately give you glory, honor, and credit for everything, God. We thank you, God, that you're changing us and you're shaping us. God, you're helping us to recognize good habits and what we need to do to maintain those good habits. So we thank you for everything that you're doing, everything you've done. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, so we are coming towards the end of our material. Did anyone bring their habit contract? Anybody want to go over their habit contract? All right. All right, yes. So Brother Frank, if you'll start us out now, just to give a little bit of reference, the habit contract is what we did last week with Brother Javier. It was part of chapter 16. At the end of it, it says, the first seatbelt law is passed in New York December 1st, 1984. At that time, just 14% of people in the United States regularly wore seatbelts. But that was all about to change. Within 5 years, over half of the nation had seatbelt laws. Today, wearing seatbelt is enforceable by law in 49 of the 50 states. And it's not just the legislation, the number of people wearing seatbelts has dramatically changed as well. Now, on that, is there any of you that can remember riding in a car without a seatbelt? Right? I remember. Yeah, that's right. And I always look at with my dad, he would let me drive, so I would be on his lap, and he would be driving. Neither one of us had a seatbelt, but that was just those were different times back then. Exactly. Yeah, it was normalized. That's right. So laws and regulations are examples of how government can change our habits by creating a social contract. As a society, we collectively agree to abide by certain rules and then enforce them on the group. Whenever a new piece of legislation impacts behavior, seatbelt laws, banning smoking inside of restaurants, mandatory recycling, is an example of social contract shaping our habits. The group agreed to act in a certain way, and if you don't follow along, you will be punished. So, this was in chapter 16, and I just read. No, we're beyond that now. Yeah, no, it's okay. We're currently on chapter 17, but your contract came from chapter 16 and page 207. It's okay.
This is the fourth class, right?
Yeah, but see, every class we're doing multiple chapters. No, that was before. That's what I'm saying. The last one we did is the contract, the Happens contract. Well, that's what I'm saying. That was part of the class, so we've already done that. We already covered that chapter, but we're going to talk about chapter 16 now. All right. So yeah, read us your.
I'm not a few years, something I mean, it's one.
Okay.
I don't know if it's right, but I'll mention to you, but I think I'm right, correctly on it.
Yeah, no problem.
It says here, to go up to the following.
All right.
Okay, my first one is, I need to read.
Okay. So needing to read more.
And, what I've done is, like I said, coach up this. They do it on there. I know they coach. Do the research. So I'm taking my, I got some other people that said that I need to read.
Okay.
What I've done is, and I got them up on the shelf.
Right.
Put them on the shelf, that's what they're gonna stay.
Right.
Then you bring them down and put them.
In places where you can interact. Yeah.
Over where I watch TV at, that's my main thing.
Right.
Right in front of me.
So now you're putting those books. They're not on the shelf no more. You put them on the counter.
Books that I'm reading, and they're right here. I've done quite a bit. I got a little more today because my power's off in my computer.
Okay.
My online power's been down for a whole day.
Oh no.
Part of me just went down and what's going on in there. So instead of doing that, I read quite a bit today. I probably read more today than I have in a long time.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Right in front of me.
Right. Okay.
And it's usually done in the evening, but, my schedule fluctuates.
Yeah. Okay.
The only thing I do every day exactly is my prayer. And my Bible reading. That's before I even do anything. That's 2 hours right there.
Right. That's good.
Put that here and make my move to the gym.
Right.
The rest of it kind of goes, a lot of it's done in front of the TV.
Right. Okay.
So that's one of them. The other one is watching less TV.
Okay.
These kind of go hand in hand because I'm sitting there. That's what I do my reading. That's what I do my TV. I don't have to go to the screen and hide my TV.
Right.
I just don't turn it on.
Okay. That makes
You
sense.
know.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I'll do that and I'll have it on, but I'll peek at it.
Okay.
And before you know it, you put the volume on because you want to know exactly what's going on.
Okay.
But I'm okay. I don't have to hide my remote and all that.
Okay. All right. So very good.
That would be, I thought about it. If I had to do that, then that's what I would do. At night when I turn it off, put it somewhere where it's going to be an effort to get to. So I'll second guess that, you will be reading now.
Right. So hiding the remote.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. All right.
My books on my table and I ask Kevin to do one. That's usually my third one was, my book was, the better control.
Okay. Better control the tongue.
And it's spiritual, and there's nothing more powerful than James 1:19.
Right. Right. Let every man
Quick
quick to
to
hear,
listen.
slow to speak,
Slow to speak.
slow to get angry.
And just not reacting to what people say. Just hold it. Just be patient. Patience
Right.
in there too.
Okay.
Be patient. And I've noticed that when I have been patient
Right.
and not responded,
Yes.
man, so much has happened. Because when the person continued to talk, it changed it, and it wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
Right.
It wasn't even close to it. So by me just shutting up, I mean just being more patient and silent, all the way out, or just not reacting as fast, changed a whole lot of things, because God can do a lot in a few seconds, right?
Right.
And change the whole complex of it. Speaking of the gym, that's one of them.
Right.
I'd already rehearsed in my mind,
Right.
in my mind what I was going to tell this guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And before you knew it, because I wasn't at that machine that I was going to, and I see what he was doing.
Right.
But before I let him have it, he looked at me and smiled, Oh, man, that just, every
Right.
That just changed everything.
Right. Okay.
That just changed everything. It's just changed.
And that interrupted your pattern. Right. And he didn't want any trouble with you afterwards. He was just telling you it's all yours.
But I was already setting myself up in my mind.
Right.
This guy ain't doing nothing. When I get there, if he still ain't doing that, and it's just patience goes along with it now. It's all just,
I hear you.
jumping on into little things. But anyway, that's what I'm working on.
That's very good.
But there's as far as what time?
Yeah.
Anytime you're interacting with anybody.
Right. Right.
Just be slow, but there's no better scripture than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, and that's good. And I like how, you're using material to better yourself. Like you said, hey, if I develop a habit of being able to cut off any type of crosstalk to where it can turn into anger, that's what I'm open to do. And by being open to it and by making that contract to do that, it's heavy accountability, and a lot of times, we get disappointed when we fail others. But we should also think of ourselves and sometimes when we fall short or we miss the mark on what we're wanting to do or a behavior or a habit that we're wanting to change, it can really, we can really be down on ourselves with that. Hello, Sister Latanya. All right, so very good. All right, Brother Ed, did you have anything? All right.
My first one is set a time frame.
All right, habits contract was to set a time frame.
Set a time frame, kind of have a schedule.
Okay.
One project to another, or coming back, or doing two projects at one time and going back and forth.
Okay.
So, time frame to do things in order.
All right, so just for those that are watching, Brother Ed was saying his contract was to do things more efficiently, not to work smarter. And so hey, go ahead, brother.
And then my third one is not to get distracted, I get distracted.
Okay.
So, I know a lot of people, I'm here most of the time here.
Right.
Work, and then, people will come to me. I've been working on that,
Right. Right.
Roads and all these programs, you don't have to go there. There's no reason to come in and say, want those.
Right, right.
That's distraction there. And then they say, well, when are you gonna get to work road? And that takes me away from what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right, right.
So I've been working on that a lot, and telling people stay away.
And I say like this, that especially when people have a good heart or have a heart to help, sometimes people can feel like that whatever you have to help with, you help them on their time. But if you allow people to do that, and you'll be used by people, you'll be exploited by them because they'll feel like, oh, well, if I come at your door at 2 in the morning, you need to help me out. Hey, well, no, I'm asleep at that time. That's my time. Or, hey, I'm working at this time. That's my own time. So I think that that's good because when we recapture our time back, it's so valuable. I look at it like this, that one of the things when we first started the church, I used to do a lot of personal counseling of people, just counseling them. Now, back then, I didn't charge anybody anything. They could just come and talk to me, and they would, lay their problems on me, and I would give them the best solution. Sometimes, we would pray about things, and that's how it was done. But what I started to learn is that the people weren't being helped that way. Why do you think that they weren't being helped that way? Like they have problems, but now they have someone that is there to help them with their problems. They didn't appreciate the help. So it's like, and it's not that they say, hey, you know, they walked out and said, Pastor, we don't appreciate your help. But why do people listen to psychologists? Because they cost money. See, when I started charging people, I said, okay, well, if you're a member of the church, $25. If you're a non-member, $55. You know, man, you know what? Probably about 75% of those people were like, oh, well, we're good. And then the 25%, you know what happened? They got better right away because there was an incentive on it. So sometimes it's like if you give yourself away, and you're like, hey, I am yours, take me when you want to, whatever, then people will treat it that way. But then when you can, you know, switch things up and make it to where, like, look, no, hey, sister, you can, you know, you'll see a better result from things. So but that's good that you addressed it that way of like, just, you know, now I've got to look at the system. What's going on? Well, I'm failing in the system that's the system of my time, how people can get a hold of me. You know, you look at like, I don't know who the CEO of Fry's is, but if any of us had a problem at Fry's, we don't get to, I mean, you know, you might be able to send an email to them or something, or leave them on voicemail, but you're not going to have connection with that person because, why? Well, it's only one CEO, and there are many Fry's stores. And with all the people that have problems at Fry's, and if it just went through that one person, he probably wouldn't be able, or he or she wouldn't have time to do anything but listen to problems. So, you know, my embrace of like my habit contract had to address stuff like that beforehand. Like, okay, yes, I'd be happy to talk with you, but it's going to cost this much. Okay, now, before then, people would be late, people would stay over, but then when you put the money part to it, they're, oh, okay, well, what time does it start? Okay, well, I'll be right there. I remember we used to have boxing here at the church, and, you know, the gentleman that was teaching it, very good guy, and had a good heart. But, you know, it's the same thing. He was teaching kids for free at first. And the kids he was teaching for free, wanted them to start at 3. A lot of times they wouldn't show up till 3:20. And then sometimes they would, you know, they would have a bad attitude or whatever. And it was just kind of like, I could see him training the group, but I also was like, man, this could be a lot tighter, and it could be tightened up a lot better. Well, when he started charging the kids, I mean, it wasn't, he didn't charge them a lot, charge them a little bit. The kids started to come on time. The kids were much more attentive. So sometimes, like, and that's what we just read in the book. Sometimes, like the laws of seatbelts. If there were no law that you did not have to wear a seatbelt, you probably would not be wearing a seatbelt because it's not, you know, well, it's just for my safety. So if I get hurt, so what? It's my fault. Okay. But and now the law is saying, okay, yeah, you can have that thought, but also we're going to make a law to protect you from yourself. So if we catch you driving without one, then there's a punishment too. So, you know, in the book, it's alluded to very often. You know, what brings us pleasure or what brings us pain is what's going to motivate us to do the most. So if you know, like if we have a good habit, like he had mentioned, don't miss twice. So like if you have a habit of doing something consistently, missing something once is not the end of the world. You can miss it, you know, because life happens, things happen. But if you miss twice, that could be the beginning of a habit. So if you say, okay, I'm going to watch my cigarette intake, okay, and you're watching it, you're keeping a close eye on it, and you're doing pretty good at it. And then you go a day to where you're just like, oh, I was stressed out, I just threw that all behind. Okay, one day, that's okay, because you can go back to your system. But if you start adding days on top of days of doing the wrong thing, the cumulative effect can be, you know, astounding, because You know, sometimes people can even have set into a pattern of doing something the right way for years. It's like, it always, I shouldn't say, I don't know, I'm always not shocked, but surprised when people get addicted at an older age. Now, it's, you know, addiction can affect anyone, and I'm not saying that you know, a person that's older can't get addicted or shouldn't get addicted. Sometimes they don't have much control over it, but sometimes I'm just baffled by, man, you went your whole life without doing this, or you saw people that died of this, and now at this age you jumped on this at this particular time. You said, yeah, please, you got the floor, brother. Okay.
So, I would think,
Right. Okay.
I can understand somebody at that age, why all of a sudden you start doing this? Oh, it's because I've been doing a whole lot of other stuff. Now I'm just now getting to do it.
Oh, okay. All right. That's a good one. That's a good one.
You got time for all that.
Yeah. That, you know what
Because
though,
my
that,
mind right now, I have some thoughts sometimes, you know.
yeah.
And it comes and goes. And I see that it's possible.
That, you know, thank you for interjecting that, because that's something I really hadn't thought of. But you're right, that like they've been addicted to other things, and you know, with the thing with most addictions is that we typically we don't put our addictions out there for everybody to see. We don't put our bad habits out there like, hey world, this is what I do. No. A lot of times, you know, even like with bad habits, like an addiction, sometimes it's only people that know you in that lifestyle know the gravity of your addiction, or they know, you know, like really what's going on. You know, I think that a lot of us, we mask what's really bothering us in life, to where all of us, we have, you know, we look like we're healthy, but we're all damaged in some way or another. But the habit, yes, sir?
I want to comment on that as well.
Yeah.
And contribute really hard on himself. We was yesterday, I want to go visit Gino.
Right.
Moving home. What was generally we was constant everybody.
Right.
And we speak, like ministers. I know that. And he's really down, and he has no food.
Right.
He has no money to buy. He, you know, buys for his house.
Right.
He's got to find drugs. And he started with drugs, you know, the age he was going down. So we asked to pray. And, you know, he was telling me about this. He was really, he told us, he said, all my life I've been, you know, dumping. I go to the shed. I even had like little restaurants of my own back in Memphis.
Right.
And he came here to better himself, and he was really good. And so someone introduced me to crack, and now he's on meth. And they had like 20 dollars.
Yeah, no, that's, you know, that's, thank you, Brother Ed, because that does add perspective to this. Like sometimes it is like, you know, like I just mentioned, man, it's like it's hard to understand, you know, like, man, how did you come to this at this part of life? But, you know, that's a good example there, like that he's in a place he doesn't know much about, and, you know, hanging out with someone opened up the door to try something, and then trying something turned into an addiction. And you know, that's why I think our habits are so important. I mean, even like, you know, we read earlier in the book about like the environment, and sometimes it's good to change your environment, because as you change your environment, you're around the people that you want to be like. You know, sometimes like we can't change our family, but you know, you have certain personality types in your family. It's like, wow, well, I don't want to go in the direction that they're going. Well, I say you just have to widen your circle. Like, you can't make those the only people that are the ones that are set up to influence you. Okay, so habits contract. Anyone else want to share their habits contract? I know. Actually, I'll do mine. And so if anybody else wants to, it'll be last call. So I did a couple of habits contracts. One of the habits contracts that I had to do with my business, and it's a sales thing. And I guess with mine, I made the contract because there is a certain dollar amount that I'd like to end up making by the end of the year. So rather than just say my goal is to make X amount of dollars, like James Clear had said in chapter 16 about making the habits contract, I wanted to do something that would really cement my idea and help you to have a system. So what my goal is to close 10 sales by January 1st. So this was from July 13th to January 1st. Now, my 3 bullet points are: number 1, make 15 sales calls every morning. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever had to do that, or like if you run across having to call people, and I say this, it used to be something that I just felt like, I don't want to call it, like, they already know what I do, just call me when you're ready. But, and you got to be aggressive at some points. Like for me to say, okay, I want to make 10 sales, but I want them all to come to me, that's not very realistic. So make those 15 calls every morning, okay? And then number 2 is to create a business post each day. So that I've been doing on like LinkedIn, and sometimes like on my Facebook business page. Sometimes I'll just send something to my client base, and I've also kind of, through doing this, I've reevaluated my client base because a lot of my family has gotten older. So who was a kid like 5 years ago is now a young adult. So I can put them in the loop of my business. So so I create a post every week or every day for someone to look at, and then I contact 2 people in my sphere of influence every day. So I've separated, who would be my client or customer, to just down to my sphere of influence. And my sphere of influence are people that know me, that trust me, and that may or may not have done business with me before. So someone I would look at, like, in my sphere of influence would be someone that I've known for a number of years. Someone that, like, we've gone through things in life together. So like if I had to help them out, if they had to help me out, that's who I look at as my sphere of influence. Now, I look at my family as my sphere of influence because they've been knowing me longer than anybody. I look at people I worked with before as my sphere of influence. But what I do is I contact 2 of those people every day. Now, it's a little challenging because sometimes, like, you were calling to see how they're doing. So like, hey, I just wanted to call to see how you were doing. Now, the first couple of days of doing this, I'm going to be honest, it was hard because I just started, in my mind, I started to think like, oh, other things need to take a priority right now. You are wasting your time doing this right now when you could be doing other things. But in December, I'm going to want to have known that in June, in July, that I did these little steps every day in order to get those 10 sales. So, I just kind of pushed myself through it. But what I did to make it make it, because like one of the things he says with our habits is we should make it attractive. We should make it like satisfying. So what I did is I made 2 scripts. So instead of trying to have to be original with those calls that I make every day, I just wrote, okay, actually, I'll just give you a little insider tip here. There's one of the assistants at our office has been showing us how to use ChatGPT. And I just went in there and I was like, script for calling people that you want to sell something to. And it gave me a whole script that I had there. I put my name in there. I implanted my business in there. And now I have a script to where I call those 15 people every day. I don't have to be original on the phone. So what did that do? It took the anxiety out of it. Now the job isn't that hard because I don't have to think of how I'm going to approach each call. Then I did the same thing for the sphere of influence. And it gave me a couple of different ideas of scripts, and I just kind of pasted them together. And I was like, see, there's years I went by that I did not do this because that little stumbling block kept me back. I'm like, oh, I don't want to have to think of things to talk to people about. I mean, it's going to sound so arrogant. It's going to sound like I'm just trying to sell them something, whatever. But so that's what's helped me. So the habit contract portion. All right. So if I do not do the thing above, I will donate $50 to Streets of Destiny Global Outreach Center. So if I don't do this, $50, I cash app to Streets of Destiny GOC. Now I haven't had to do it yet, but I'm ready to do that. Now I don't mind giving the GOC $50 because I know that they can use it, but it would make me feel better if I did it by choice and not by force. It made me feel better to do it if I just did because I wanted to, not because I failed at my contract. So that was one of the contracts I made. I made a total of 4 contracts to help me stay on my habits. I'll just briefly, one is keeping up my workout routine. There's some days where I used to kind of give myself excuses to not do it, whatever, but by setting a contract for that, it sets me up to where, no, I don't miss a things, and the reason why is I do it early. And if I have to miss, I'm only missing one day. And I'm not going to beat myself up behind missing one day, but I'm not missing 2 in a row. I have an accountability partner that I tell, yeah, hey, did you go to the gym? Yes, I went to the gym today. And I feel good that I'm able to track it that way. So, all right, anybody else? If not, we'll jump to our next portion. Anyone else? All right. So what we'll do is just remember to keep that as something that you kind of take away from the book, because I think it's something that can really be a blessing. Sometimes we just get in a rut. We're not doing the habits that we know we can do. A lot of times it just takes, you got to take the time to write it down and to make a contract. Yes, sir.
I just want to say something.
Yes.
This habit, contract that you passed down on sheet. So
Yes.
what I just did is
Like, why did you choose only one?
Right, yeah.
because there was only one sheet, so I just put on a piece of paper, so that's how I did mine.
Very good. Okay. All right. Well, very good. Very good. I am going to see if I can get the screen to. I've got the volume all the way up here. Right, yeah, let's. So it is playing? Okay, all right. Well, so what I can do is I may be able to just play this from the speakers here. If not, we can discuss what he was talking about. Okay, so while he gets that, I want to just say, okay, so as we go into chapter 17, and that is, excuse me, not chapter 17, we're in chapter 18. And this is Advanced Tactics, chapter 17. How to go from being merely good to being truly great. How to go from good to great. Now,
And the important insight here, especially for addicts, is that in the beginning.
All right, so go back. Okay, so what we're going to talk a little bit about, or what he's going to talk a little bit about here, is how we make our habits a part of our regular life, like part of our day-to-day lives. Now, what I'm going to talk about after the video plays is habit tracking. That's one of the sheets that you should have with you. If you do not, we have extra copies of that. So we'll talk a little bit about habit tracking. But now we're going to go to the lecture from James Clear on the screen.
And he split them into two groups. He said, everybody on this side of the room, you're going to be graded on the quantity of work that you do this semester. And everybody on this side of the room, you're going to be graded.
And let me catch you up on this. So, class, a college photography class. They split the group up, and they gave one group the assignment to take the best picture they could over the semester, and then the other group was given the assignment to take as many pictures as they could throughout the semester. And they were doing an experiment to see like which group actually did better. So the one that had to take the one perfect shot or their best shot, or the one that could take multiple shots over and over again. Here we go.
All of work that you do this semester. And he's further explained it by saying that for your film photography, you're going to be responsible for having 100 pictures. If you do 100 photos over the course of the semester, that'll be an A. If you do 90, it'll be a B. If you do 80, it'll be a C, and so on. So it's quantity. For this group, you only have to produce one photo, but it has to be the most perfect photo that you can make, the best photo that you can make. An interesting thing happens. At the end of the term, all the best grades came from the quantity group, not from the quality group. And what ended up happening was that while people were busy experimenting, making mistakes, learning how to play with composition and so on, they would come across a really great photo. And while the quality group was busy theorizing about what perfection would look like and how to take the perfect photo and not actually honing their skills, they ended up only making something mediocre or average. And the important insight here, especially for addicts, is that in the beginning, the most important thing is just to shut up and put your reps in. Just make sure that you hone the skill, right? And you can start to think of it, the way that I like to think of it is that any outcome that you wish to achieve is just a point along the spectrum of repetitions. So if you have few reps to more reps, and you can imagine an easy goal, moderate goal, hard goal, the more reps that you put in, the more likely you are to achieve that goal. So maybe point A is, let's say fitness, squatting 100 pounds. Point B is squatting 200. Point C is squatting 300. Maybe you need to put in 100 reps or 1,000 reps to get to point A. Maybe it's 5,000 to get to point B. Maybe it's 10,000 to get to point C. And this is actually very similar to what I saw with my writing habit. So after 6 articles at 100 subscribers, after 23, 1,000, after 96, 34,000, 177, 100,000, 243, and so on. And every rep that I put in, every article that I published, was something that was moving me closer to the next outcome on that spectrum. But you can't get around the fact that the repetitions matter. So every outcome is just one along the spectrum. And this brings us to an interesting point, which is that if getting your reps in is incredibly important, then that means learning how to start is incredibly important. Because each repetition, really any consistency with the habit, is just an exercise in getting started each day. If you can get started over and over again, then that's what consistency is. So you need to make it as easy as possible to start. I want to give you a little strategy for doing that. I like to call it the 2-minute rule. Now, this is adapted. So David Allen has a 2-minute rule for productivity. And his rule is that if it takes 2 minutes, just do it now. So like throwing the laundry or washing a dish or calling somebody back, it takes 2 minutes or less, just do it right away. Don't plan it, don't wait, just do it now. Now, for many of the habits and behaviors that we want to perform, they're going to take longer than 2 minutes. You know, if you go to the gym, you're not going to work out for just 2 minutes. But any habit can be started in less than 2 minutes, whether it's writing, working out, meditating, anything. And so the goal here is that you want to optimize for the beginning of the task. You want your habits to act as an entrance ramp to a bigger routine. One of my favorite examples of this, Twyla Tharp, great choreographer and dancer. She said that she had a 2-hour workout routine that she did every morning. But the habit was not the workout routine. The habit was she would wake up, walk down to the street, and then hail a cab. And that was the only thing she focused on. As long as she got the cab and got in the car, she knew that she was going to end up at the gym and then do the rest of the workout. So she put all of her energy into starting. Now, what I like to say is you should optimize for the starting line, not the finish line. Right? So often when we think about habits, goals, routines, achievements, it's all about the milestone. We think about how much weight we want to lose, how much money we want to earn, how many subscribers we want to have. It's all fixed on the finish line. But instead, if you can optimize for the starting line, make it as easy as possible to get started and get your reps in, often the outcomes just come as a natural result. Okay, stage 4, liking. So the only reason that we repeat behaviors is because we enjoy them, because we like the reward. If we don't enjoy the experience along the way, we're unlikely to stick with it. And that means that you need to figure out ways to bring a reward into the present moment, because good habits have a problem. And that problem is that for good habits, the immediate consequence is there. There's a cost that happens at the moment, but the reward is often delayed. If I go to the gym now, it's cost me time and energy and effort, but the reward is I'll be fit 3 months from now or not get sick 10 years from now or so on. The reward is delayed. Bad habits are often the reverse. If I eat a donut right now, the benefit is it tastes great and I get a hit of sugar and it's awesome, and the consequence is delayed, right? I get overweight 3 weeks from now, 3 months from now, or so on. So you need to figure out how to bring the reward into the present moment to stick to a good habit. And someone else is going to be speaking here, Seth Godin, had a very nice little quote about this. The best way to change long-term behavior is with short-term feedback. And one way to think about that is that long-term behaviors, sticking with writing for years on end or going to the gym and so on, they have those delayed consequences. So you need a way to enjoy it in the moment. All right, there are many ways to do this, but I'm just going to share one today. I like to call it the Seinfeld strategy. And the story is from Jerry Seinfeld, a comedian. Early in his career, he's speaking at a comedy club. He's presenting or performing that night. And this guy named Brad Isaac is opening for him. And backstage, Brad Isaac catches Seinfeld. He said, Mr. Seinfeld, huge fan of yours. Do you have any tips for young comics? Do you have any recommendations for how to be better? And Seinfeld thought for a second. He said, well, the secret of being a better comedian is to write better jokes. And the secret of writing better jokes is writing every day. So here's what I think you should do. Get a wall calendar. You can see every day of the year mapped out on it. And then any day that you do your task of writing jokes for 15 minutes, I want you to just put an X on that day. And you'll have a couple false starts here and there, but at some point you're going to get a little bit of a chain going, right? You get 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days in a row. And at that point, your only goal becomes to don't break the chain. Doesn't matter how good or how bad the jokes are, doesn't matter if it makes it into your material, just don't break the chain. And what's interesting about this is that by measuring your progress, you get an immediate reward in the moment, right? The reward of like having a great stand-up routine 40 days from now or 40 weeks from now or whatever, is not, it's so delayed that you need something in the moment that makes you feel good. So if you do those 15 minutes, you can cross that off as a way to get an immediate hit, a little bit of a reward by tracking it. Now, I like to add one more thing to this, which is never miss twice. So many people, they'll get a chain going and then they fall off track and they feel bad about it. They feel like, oh, I ruined it. I had this great thing, now it's over, and the streak is gone. But what you find when you look at top performers is not that they don't make mistakes. They make mistakes just like everybody else, but they can just get back on track more quickly. And in fact, if you could just adhere to this one rule, never miss twice, then you would, even if you fell off track every single time after you got back on track, you still would do it 50% of the time. And so this basic strategy is very useful. And I've seen people use the Seinfeld strategy for working out. I used it for tracking how often I was writing. Every Monday, every Thursday. I didn't want to break the chain. I have videographer friends who every day that they do 30 minutes of video processing, that's their X. So you can adapt it for almost anything. All right, so the fourth.
All right, so what did we learn from what he was saying? The Seinfeld approach was actually one that was effective. How do the guy that watched Jerry Seinfeld? Hey, how do I become a comedian? I want to be like you. You have to repeat, practice every day. So what was that practice for him? Writing every day, writing jokes. He just had to write jokes. And every time that he wrote a joke, he was able to monitor progress. So if you got this in your pass out, I'm going to read it. Or actually, you know what? Let me have someone else read it. Monitor your progress. If someone will read those 3 paragraphs there.
A habit tracker is a practice technique for habit of practice. It's one of the most satisfying feeling in making progress. Habit trackers and other user forms of measurement make your habit satisfying and providing clear evidence of progress. James Clear suggests that you never miss twice. If you miss one day, try to get back on track as many days possible. Mark the habit tracker below. Don't break the chain. Try to keep your habit free going for as long as possible.
All right, very good. So you can do it in form of an actual calendar. This is what Brother Javier included in your wasn't included. Okay, well we have extras, but anyhow, with this, it gives you a way to be able to track whatever it is that you're doing. So we're in the month of July. And we are at, what is it, 21st? 20th, okay. So July 20th, if you fulfilled your habit, if you did the habit that you wanted to make, you would just put an X in that box. Has anybody ever done anything like this? Actually mark your, yeah, okay. Give me an example. What was it with, Sister Shannon? Right?
So I was writing down things that I did, and I was marking off. So what it is,
Okay. So like a to-do list that you would actually write down and check everything off. So also kind of part of the same genre. Now, if you can remember from the book, what was the thing that the lady would do? Remember she had the paper clips and she would put them and she would take them in from one area and she'd put them in another area, and once all the paper clips were in the other area, she knew that she had completed her task. So, you could do it like that. Anybody ever use we had a job, we had a cussing bucket. Anybody ever have a cussing bucket at work? So anytime that someone said a profane word, you would put a quarter in it. Yeah. And every day, if someone said a profane word, they put a quarter. At the end of the day, I don't know, there would be like a raffle or something, and someone could win all of the money. Now,
that never be closed.
all right. But here's the thing, is that it would be full until you saw the value of, okay, well, maybe it's not worth having to put a quarter in for every single time. So what would the behavior, how would that affect the behavior? It may change the behavior because I don't want to pay a quarter every time I say this word. I'm going to come up with a word that's not a profane word that I could switch it out with, right? Okay, how about, now, I've seen like in movies where people are in jail, like sometimes they're like in a medieval jail, and they for one strike for 1 day, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it shows all these days that they've been there. But, could that be a good strategy for someone that's trying to keep their mind occupied on not where they're at, but where they're going, right? If you're in that cell, and all you have to look at is those four walls every single day, maybe you would lack motivation. Maybe you could get lost in just doing the time, and the time would do you. But if you can find something positive to be able to mark off the time, yeah.
What are those letters across the top?
Yes, what do you think, Dave? It's 12 individual letters. J for January, F for February. Yep. It took me a second to figure it out for a second as well, too.
Well, you kind of mentioned it.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah, so instead of having an actual, scale out calendar, we've got these made, and you can do this. So now, what we've got to do is where would be a good place to be able to put this? On your refrigerator. Where else? Right next to your bed. For me, on my mirror. Because I always go to the mirror. After I go to the bathroom, I wash my hands. I go to the mirror to see out, so that would be, where else? Where do you think would be a good place to put this? In your car, okay. What's that? Close to your calendar, very good. How about taking a picture of it? You think taking a picture could be effective? Yeah. I also think one place that when I did my vision board a few years ago, it was really effective to put it on my bedroom door. So every time I walk, because I always, whenever I go to my bedroom, I always shut the door so it's there. And then when I need to leave the room, it's always right there. And it was something good to where I can visualize what I put on that board, and I can see it all the time. So the more that we can see something, the more that we can keep it in our mind that, hey, I need to earn my check mark for today. One of the things, I don't know if anyone has this if you belong to a gym, but at our gym, they give you an app. Now, you have an app to where you scan in to when you go to the gym. But something I just discovered about this is check-ins. So anytime that you check in, it'll show you if you checked in. So I look at man, okay, well, I missed a day there, I had it there, but I always look at this every day of okay, it's my little reminder just to track good habits. Now, speaking of gym, now, if any of you, I had the pleasure of working out with Brother Frank yesterday, and man, my abs hurt. He does it a little different. He does a large number, he does 6 sets, but 20 to 25 reps. I was man, this is when he definitely decrease the weight. Well, anyway, in doing that, I was able to adapt to something that he was doing different than my routine. But I thought it was good because I was able to still do my workout, but I was able to learn something different from someone else. Now, one of the things that if any of you have the habit of eating better, one of the things that you can do is if you want to eat better, one of the first things you can do is start writing down everything that you eat. Now, you want a reality check, that is a reality check. Because a lot of times when people say that they want to lose weight, or they're okay, yeah, maybe a lot of times we go to the doctor, and the doctor, dirty doctor, always say, hey, well, you're a few pounds, or you can stand to lose a few pounds, right? And they tell us that, but then now if we start checking our weight, have you ever looked at the scale and I've been man, I know I should be weighing this. I don't even eat that much. Well, one way you can tell if you're eating a lot or not is to start writing it down. If you start writing it down, then you can quantify how much of what you're eating is. And then sometimes I would always underestimate the calories. So say I know that's a salad. So that could be no more than 200-300 calories. So okay, yeah, but did you use the dressing on it? Yeah. Okay, did you eat it with, was there tofu that was included? Yeah, tofu was included too. Okay, did you get the cheese with it? So it's like all these things that like you would think, oh yeah, this is just, this is a low calorie meal. Have you ever looked at calories and kind of messed up the math? I have, where I was like, okay, well eating this is only 400 calories. And it's always Kathy that will bust my bubble with this. She comes back and say, yeah, that's per serving. This has 3 servings. Like, oh, per serving. So that was 1,200 calories. Like, oh, man. So the way that we can get better with anything is to write stuff down. Like I said, if you want to stop smoking cigarettes, I don't say just stop cold turkey. I would say approach it by, like, if you smoke 14 cigarettes a day, try and cut it down to 12. Yeah, cut it down to that eventually. Just start small, whittle your way into it, and make a habit tracker. We're going to track everything. Now, in the church, what could be a good habit tracker that we could have in the church? What numbers can we be aware of? Okay, the attendance. So we say sometimes there's low attendance at church, or there's high attendance at church. Well, if we're not doing anything to track the attendance at church, we might just say, well, we just do everything the same every week, regardless of who's here and who's not here. But how could we get better if we track the attendance? Yeah, okay, to be able to just know how many people are coming or how many are not. Now, if you had a Sunday to where you were having ice cream and you got like great, and that was the Sunday that the most people came to church, what do you think we could do to increase our overall attendance? Have ice cream. If we had ice cream, here's the thing, is because we know that one Sunday that worked. Now, what if we had and invite friends and family to church on Sunday, and we saw that was the lowest attendance that we had all year? What would we be guaranteed of? Well, if we keep asking the people to bring friends and family, they're probably not going to do that, and that would be a surefire way to drop attendance then. So here's the thing, and we said, all right, well, what we're going to do is we're going to track what works. How about if we track this? The length of the sermon. If we track the length of the sermon and say, okay, well, we want to see if we're done by 12, how many people come back the next Sunday? And if we go over, how many people come back the next Sunday? So if we go over and there's more people that come back the next Sunday, what might that say? That might suggest that the people want a longer service. But they don't mind, yeah. But then if we saw that if we cut it at 12 o'clock and we just said, okay, what would happen if we cut it at 12 o'clock? Would this affect the amount of people that are coming to church? If we saw an increase in our numbers, maybe that would be something too. Here's another one. And I'm gonna mess this up, and if anybody can correct me, please do it. Reciprocity. Anybody know what that is? That's what's that? That may be a definition, so I'm not saying it's wrong, but how I'm trying to say it is receiving something back in return. The reciprocation of something. So like if we went to Sam's Club tonight, we all went to the store Sam's Club. If they were giving out free samples, what would be the likelihood that we would buy something? Would it go up or would it go down? Probably go up, because we're not used to getting something for free in the grocery store. And if they're giving us something for free, subconsciously we might feel the need to, well, I'm going to give something back. How about when you go to a restaurant? Anybody go to a restaurant, notice something like you know, when the bill is ready to be paid, at a lot of restaurants, they give you a little plastic deal, and they put it there like, okay, whenever you're ready, we'll go ahead and take care of this. And then, or they'll say, hey, do y'all want 2 checks? And okay, are you ready for me to, you know, are you ready for me to get you? Right? Yeah. So now, I want you to pay attention to something. Have you ever seen that to where they have something on that plastic other than your bill? Chocolate, something candy. Sometimes if it's like a Chinese place, fortune cookie, they'll give you something. Now, why are they giving you that? They're trying, exactly. They're setting you up like, wow, I had this delicious meal, and they gave me these chocolates for free. And so all I have to do is sign this paper, and I paid for it, but they're also asking if you want to tip. Now, I'm not saying don't tip. I think it's important to tip people, especially if you've gotten good service. But, you know, that they say that places that do that typically get higher tips because it's something subconsciously. I'm getting something for free. Now, how do churches do this? Have you ever been to a church that offers free donuts? Now, here's the thing. We've done it before. Now, I wasn't thinking about this at that particular time. And back then, I really didn't keep track. Like, well, are people giving more because there's donuts or not? But here's the thing: could that be a way where we can track that? Sure. If every, you know, but what is something that we do give away regularly when you come to our church? Well, you don't get grocery, but while you're in service, a bottle of water. There's always an abundance, and we freely share the water. And sometimes it's not an usher that will get you a water. Sometimes a brother or sister in Christ will give you a drink of water. Someone might notice that you're coughing or whatever, and here, let me get you some water, you know. And we give that away. And then what is that subconsciously? How does that make people feel? Kleenex, yeah. But it subconsciously makes people feel like, wow, they're giving something away. Now, I don't know if that subconsciously makes them want to give or not, but it's something that we can track. It's welcoming. Yeah. How about when someone comes to your house, do you offer people something? Depends on who it is, right? Yeah. Sometimes, you know, now here's the thing, is if it's someone that I'm close to or that I want to stay, I'll always offer them at least a glass of water, whatever we have to drink. So if it's like, you know, hey, we got some lemonade, or hey, you know what, we got some green tea, you know, whatever. So we'll offer them something, and a lot of times, you know, it's not necessarily like they give something back, but I'm just trying to give that to make them feel welcome, to make them feel, you know, like they're getting something. Now, here's the thing too: is sometimes on airplanes, they give you a meal or they'll give you a snack, and sometimes like people. Now, as a little, I don't know if any of you as a little kid, if you ever travel on a plane, that's what you look forward to. It's like, oh, I get to. And I remember as a kid, we flew from the Philippines to Phoenix. My dad was in the military. I remember flying there like that. You know, that was the biggest highlight of the trip. Was like, oh, the meals were so good. Now, the older I've gotten, I look, yeah, that meal was like probably like some tiny little miniature something just to hold you over. But as a kid, it made me feel a special or certain way, because it was like, man, you know, we get this, and like I thought that like, wow, they're giving this all to us for free. And it's like, until I got older, I was like, well, no, the ticket, they included that in the ticket. And you know, so it was a little bit of exchange. So in what we learned from the video, what we can do is we can easily track our progress. Now, anybody heard of apps that will track your progress? You've got apps now that are out there that will track your progress. One of the habit contracts that I made, one of the three of them I made, was for my personal finances. And it had to do with my credit score. I have a goal to raise my credit score by the end of the year to a certain level. Now, anybody ever forget to make a payment, or you just forget it or whatever, like, oh, I didn't know it. Well, that can mess with your credit score. Sometimes, making early payments can help your credit score. But what I did this week is I went in my online banking app and I set up automatic payments for my bills. So regardless, if I don't consciously go in there and make the payment, I set it up to where it does it automatically. Now, also, like I said, I have a goal for my credit score, and I have a goal for what I want to have saved, cash money in the bank. So what else do you think I'm doing? I'm doing an automatic deduction from my checking account that goes into my savings account. I don't have to go to the bank. I don't have to hand them anything. They do it for me because I set it up on my phone. So here's the thing. Don't be afraid of technology. Technology can actually help you with your habits, right? Anybody have an example of how technology can help you with your habits? I've got one. How about setting alarms on your phone? Sometimes I set an alarm. I know, today, I had a pretty heavy appointment with one of my clients, and I knew that I had to do some reading before this appointment. So I scheduled alarm to go off, set this time up for reading. So able to do that. Able to do that because I set the alarm to do it. Can anybody give me an example of how you can set an alarm to help your habits? Yeah. All right. So when you set something on your calendar and you set up an alarm for something, you can label it. So if you label, hey, go walk my dog at 7:30 p.m., what's going to happen? The alarm is going to go off, 7:30 p.m., go walk the dog. And you get that in, and it's a reminder. Brother Ed was talking about managing his life that way, just trying to set aside time to do things at certain times. So he has a lot of he has a lot of tasks that he has to do within the church. So, if you were to say, okay, I'm going to mop the floor Thursday at 1 p.m., if he had an alarm that went off at 11 o'clock on Thursday to let him know, hey, in 2 hours, you need to go and mop the floor. Well, how can that prepare him? Well, he could be doing something else, and you know what? I better sit down and get a little rest before I do that, because I got to do it at this particular time, right? So information, monitoring your habits is important. Now, I want to close with a Bible verse, and it's going to be in the book of Habakkuk. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You already know. So Habakkuk 2, 2, and 3. Now I'll read it for you if you don't have it or you don't have your Bible. And the Lord answered me, write the vision, make it plain on tablets, so ye may run who reads it. For still the vision awaits its appointed time. It hastens to the end. It will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come, and it will not delay. So, something that we've learned in church often is write the vision, make it plain. And anytime you get a sermon about a vision, it's typically accompanied with that verse at some point or another within the teaching. And I think that where we've kind of short-sighted it is I think we're good about writing the goal. But what did we debunk from reading Atomic Habits? Goals are really nothing. It's more of the systems that you establish behind the goal. So it's not just to write out the vision or to write out what you want to do. It's also to track the habits every day. Because it's, how many of you have had something you wrote down and you wrote it down and then you just fell away from doing it? Well, a lot of times you fall away from doing it because you don't have nothing to hold you accountable. You don't have nothing that you're writing down, nothing that you're able to get the pleasure. What was the chemical we talked about last week? The dopamine, right? So that dopamine rush that we get when we do something that's satisfying. Can we get a flood of dopamine by looking at this? Yeah. You can get a flood of dopamine by putting that X up there, by saying, like, you know what? I have put together 7 straight days of doing the right thing. I am on my way. If it's like, hey, I'm looking to get a job. Most people that don't have a job, if someone asks them, like, hey, are you looking for a job? Yeah, I'm looking for a job. But that could mean different things to different people. When my sons were young adults, it was always, I was like, hey, what are you doing to look for a job? You guys need to look for a job. You need to be working. I sound like a broken record. But their excuse started to be to me, well, we applied online. And it's like, look, I'm from the old school. Applying online is only the first step of it. Going out there early, going out there talking to people. Back in my day, they used to have help wanted signs. And what would you do with the help wanted sign? No, you take the sign with you. Take it out. What did you need help for? I'm your help. I'm the one. You pick up the sign. I remember I had people and they would say, oh, sir, will you go ahead and put that sign back? We're hiring for multiple positions. But it was a confidence thing. Like, you pick up the sign because you're saying, like, hey, I'm here. And how would you do it? You would go early. My mom would tell me, like, hey, you get out of this house by 6 in the morning looking for a job. And and the thing is sometimes I would be mad and upset, but I had to understand she was right. When I showed up early, ready to go, there were people, if it was at the temporary service or if it was at, a regular job, people were impressed by that. Yeah. How could job hunting be more effective? Tracking the progress. How many jobs am I applying for each day? If I apply for 5 jobs, I put an X down. So if I've applied for and today, you don't have to drive all over town to be able to apply for a job. You literally can do it from your computer, but make sure you're tracking something with it, right? Make sure that you got something that you got written down in front of you. Okay, well, anyone have anything else to add on the class tonight? Make the vision. Okay, so next week we should be closing everything out. We can do 18, 19, and 20. That should be the conclusion. Now, if you have not gotten to that place in the book yet, don't rush it. If you're a slower reader, just make your way through it. Now remember, on YouTube, you've got the audio book. It's free. What I've been doing is when I studied for this class, I went through and I read along as I listened to it. It helped me to be able to retain a little bit more. So you could do that as well. So yeah, it's our last week of the teaching. Now, I think that we're going to do one final review after that, and that'll be our party. So just like we did for the purple book, we'll be doing for the Atomic Habits book. We'll have a little,
can I have a Bible?
A little something to eat. We'll have something to drink, and we'll bring everybody in for the fellowship of completing the book. Now, how many books have you read this year? Has anybody read 5 or more books this year? All right. Anybody read 10 or more? How many of you read, Sister Paul? so far? 25 to 30 already. We're not even through half of the year. Way to go, sister. Now, all right, so everybody but Chandra, if you complete this book, this might be the first book that you complete this year. So that's why I say, don't get nervous because we're coming to the end of the book. It was a long book. You've gotten the high points of it. But what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to complete it because there'll be a major sense of accomplishment just to be able to finish it. And one of the things about reading this book is there's a lot of tangible information you can take from it. You can start using right away. Now, this is a quote unquote secular book. It's not a Christian book, but I believe that there are secular works that can be just as important as something that uses the Bible. It all depends on how we use the material. For instance, tonight we closed out with Habakkuk 2:2-4. Not only writing the vision, but write the progress down. Right? It's not. See, a lot of times when we make our goals about the destiny, we make our habits only destiny related. You know what we do? We forget to enjoy the journey. We forget to enjoy the process of every day getting better, every day seeing yourself change, seeing yourself implement new habits, seeing yourself get rid of habits on the day-to-day process is something you should reward on a day-to-day basis. And as you reward yourself creatively, it's a dopamine rush, and the next day you feel excited to be able to do it again. All right, let's pray out. Father, in Jesus' name, thank you tonight for the audience that was watching online, as well as those who were here in person. God, I pray that this teaching that we're doing on habits begins to sink into us. God, that we would make it part of our everyday process of forming new habits and evaluating what habits are not helping us. God, we pray that you would help us to be effective with our goal or our habit contract. Help us to monitor our progress. And as we monitor our progress, we would monitor our improvement. We would get better and better to where we're seeing a 1% improvement every day in every area we desire. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. Thank you so much. We'll make sure everybody comes back next week. Brother Javier has got our final chapters. And then the last week will be our celebration. We will be celebrating the accomplishment of finishing Atomic Habits. Thank y'all so much. All right. Thank you, Brother Art.